How's it going, Critter Family? I hope you all are doing well. Today we are looking at a video by Yorkshire Canine Academy. Title, he's Zak George, the dog training's biggest fraud. Why is everybody always on Zak George's case? He has not taken money from people like these abusive idiots do that charge thousands and thousands of dollars. Look at Joel Beckman, charges $2,000 for a 1-hour lesson where he just mentally and physically exhausts and abuses an animal and treats them so aggressively that they eventually shut down, or he doesn't even get progress, but he tries to act like he does, and then he turns the dog around and says, "Hey, look, I fixed it." These people openly abuse and mistreat and harm and traumatize animals in the name of training, and they get away with it, and they get hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. I mean, and yet they call Zak George the fraud? Man, you guys, everybody's just, it's just a big pissing contest. And the thing that I appreciate about Zak George is that he doesn't bother to meddle in this kind of stuff. I mean, I do. I mean, I don't like drama by any means. You would think I would, but I do this because I try to fight back against these dummies, and I don't care what they have to say about me. I just try to spread awareness, and in a different way, in a more aggressive way, I do than Zak George does. And so good for him. I mean, him and Victoria Stilwell and Grisha Stewart and all these other people that are fighting the good fight. Why is everybody always going after the force-free trainers that are just trying to make life better for the animal? Because it would be making life worse for his pockets.
A few weeks back, I made a comment about Zak George's training methods in one of my videos, and I received
What does he have against Victoria Stilwell?
Thinking, do people think that Zak George is a real dog trainer? Today,
okay, so let's look at that. What makes a real dog trainer? Apparently, he thinks he's a real dog trainer. What makes a dog trainer? Anybody who works with dogs is a dog trainer. You don't have to have a certification. You don't have to have, there's no regulation in this country. You know, maybe there might be with the pushback of these force-free trainers, and good for them. If they do, then I will absolutely I will jump through every hoop I need to be licensed. I am certified. I've gone through schooling for several years to be educated. I continue my education. I work to benefit the dog, not just the human. None of these people here are going to be educated, but yet they start their own schooling, their own academy. So it's just as easy to start your own academy as it is to claim you're a dog trainer and charge people hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years.
We're diving headfirst into why following Zak George's advice could be the main reason why your dog's behavior has taken such a nosedive.
Okay, so let's take a look here. First off, let's talk about what he said. He said that Zak George's advice might make your dog worse. Well, Zak George is not in the room with you in that moment when your dog is reacting. He is not able to tell you and help you. You're not able to jump into his mind to be able to read your dog seconds before they blow up, or be able to prevent them from blowing up, or redirecting them at the proper timing. He can teach you. He can only teach you so much. Just like any schooling, any teacher, you know, even myself, I can only teach you so much without being there in the room with you. And so any advice that you should take with a grain of salt anyway. You know, he's not claiming that he's going to fix your dog. He can't. He's not perfect, and he never claimed to be, and everybody's acting like he thinks he's perfect. He's not. And he knows he's not. It's not about being perfect, but all these people think they have a God complex that they can fix other dogs and blah, 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 and you know, these other trainers never work with aggressive dogs. No, you just don't see them acting aggressively because we know more than you do, and we know how to work a dog better than you do, so the dog never ends up building up that trigger stacking and they explode. It's all about prevention, my friend. So here we have, sorry, I was going on this big old tangent and wasn't even showing the screen. I hold the owners just as accountable as I do the trainers. And so since this guy is too much of a pussy to put this thread of a leash on this dog's neck, even though the dog is muzzled, he's going to let the owners do it, or his helper do it, and then he's going to take the leash and aggressively manipulate the dog. So good for you. But yet, he thinks he's a real trainer. It's not about the results you get, it's how you get those results.
as of late. Strap in, because in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to unpack the one mistake Zak makes in almost every single video and the reason why...
Okay, so he's a hate watcher. He watches Zak George's videos to be able to claim a ludicrous claim that he makes the same mistake in every video. Okay, let's see what that mistake is.
Literally, no professional dog trainer takes him seriously. Have you ever wondered...
So professional means that you make money out of it, but a large percentage of those professionals are not even educated. So who cares what an uneducated fool thinks of you? You know, better to be like Zak. You know, he stays quiet. He doesn't even try to converse with these people. And it's better to be thought a fool than to open your mouth and prove it. So maybe I'm proving it myself. You know, usually people they say, oh, you should train this, you should do this, you need to show this. I don't care to show anything. I don't have anything to prove to anybody. I'm doing this to try to open up the eyes of other people that don't know better. These silver-tongued snake oil salesmen will try to sell you on these ideas. You know, I can only say so much, and I can only do so much from behind a screen, from you know, a video. Even in person, I can only do so much. But if you listen to the information that we spread, that we teach you, and you actually follow through how we teach you, you will build up timing and you'll be better at being able to work with your dog, and you will get progress. But you can't blame someone on the internet because you watch one of their videos that says, oh yeah, this can help your dog, and it didn't help you or your dog because of so many variables. Sometimes you need to realize you are the problem.
Despite religiously copying the likes of Zak George, your dog's behavior isn't exactly reaching Crufts levels. If you're anything like the thousands of desperate dog owners out there, you might notice something funny. And by funny, I mean shit. Your dog's behavior is actually getting worse. Now, I'm not here to sugarcoat things. Zak's videos have all the razzle-dazzle and big scary...
Okay, yeah, nice. Nice editing, dude.
Scare the shit out of you so you buy his treat packages. But
he doesn't care if you buy his treat packages. I mean, like, this guy is absolutely having a pissing contest, and Zak doesn't even know he exists, nor does he care.
Time again, he's making a mistake that you'll want to avoid as much as you want to avoid those really thin poo bags that your fingers accidentally slip through and you're going to end up getting a, well, shitty finger. This is dog training.
I mean, that's a cheap product, just like anything else. You know, you can only expect so much out of what you get. So if you, using that analogy, if you go to the internet to learn how to train your dog and you don't know what you're looking for, or you listen to the first person or 3 people that tell you, hey, you need to do this, this, and this, and you do that, and then it doesn't help your dog, or you watch a video even from a well-versed dog trainer or professional, then you could watch this guy and it may not help your dog. That doesn't mean you need to do your research. It's about you taking the time to learn how to do it properly and hopefully humanely.
Kindergarten material, genuinely day one, week 1 stuff. So recently, Zak posted this video where he gave millions of people some questionable advice. And today I'm going to deconstruct...
According to you, that's your opinion why you think it's questionable.
If you can call it that, is like trying to put out a fire with a can of Supreme Diesel. Let me break it down for you, and by the end of this, you'll be in on his dirty little secret. In this video,
according to him, he's trying to manipulate you into thinking. He's telling you how to think, that he has a dirty little secret. Zak has a dirty little secret. No, this guy has probably a whole closet full of skeletons that we don't know about, but who cares?
Zak encourages viewers to deter your dog from bad behavior by... 1, getting their attention first.
Absolutely, perfect.
They got yours first. 2, give a command. And 3,
good job.
Reward the command. He then demonstrates this.
So he says mistake, the dog got his attention first because he was chewing on a shoe. Dude, get over yourself. You're not perfect either.
Shade the Cane Corso puppy. Essentially, positively interrupt the dog's bad behavior, throw out some basic commands, and reward the dog for doing something else. Sounds fair enough. Unfortunately, it's not, and here's why. While Zak thinks he's addressing the bad behavior, what's actually...
According to this guy who has no education, thinks that he knows more than probably an animal behaviorist, or a veterinary applied animal behaviorist.
Happening is a dog training 101 mess. Before we go too deep, let me give you an alternate example. Imagine a competition retrieve in dog training.
Okay, we're not talking about competition. We're not comparing competition retrieve With a dog, you probably use e-collars and prong collars on, and aversive methods, to a puppy chewing on a shoe that was mistakenly left out. We're not comparing the two of those. You're an idiot. You're manipulative.
You know where the dog picks up an object and returns it to you in the precise front position.
Or the precise, perfect position. Who cares? Control freak.
In this, there's a 99.9% chance that unless you're planning on enrolling your dog into the Canine Olympics, then this is useless to you. But stick with me for a moment. Okay. Training a retrieve is like building a complex Lego structure. You've got individual pieces or behaviors like hold, front, recall, and so on. And all these need to be shaped separately before you can chain them together. But once each piece is strong enough, you can add them together and eventually reward them as a chain. So for in this example here, by rewarding the retrieve, I also theoretically reward each part of the sequence. Can you see where I'm going yet? And here's where it all goes tits up for Zak. His method of interrupting bad behavior may seem to work in the moment, but long term, we've just created a behavioral chain and not only rewarded the recall, but the counter surfing too. You're actually reinforcing the very thing you don't want. Not to...
Okay, so I see his point, and in that, I still think that if you were to... Yes, that could happen. The dog could pair that, but if you are consistent enough and you continue to reinforce your dog for staying away and preventing them from getting to the counter and counter surfing, or they no longer are being rewarded for that, then yes, positive reinforcement can still work. That doesn't mean you need to correct your dog. You need to correct your own behavior. If there's something you cannot necessarily correct, then, you know what, keep a leash on your dog. Keep your dog tethered to you. You know, there's a million different ways you can do it. It doesn't mean that that's a mistake of Zak George or of the method being used. That is just one guy's take on it. So what he would do is he would probably go correct the dog, or he might use an e-collar, he might throw something at the dog. I don't know, and I don't care. He would use an aversive method to correct the dog, which is still not necessary because it has to be harsh enough to stop the dog from ever doing that behavior again.
Mention the dog learning that getting up to no good gets your attention and gets you off the sofa. It's like being on a diet and every time you eat a salad, you reward yourself with a Five Guys milkshake. It's completely counterintuitive.
It's not quite the same.
Interrupting a behavior doesn't necessarily mean reducing it. And don't worry, I'm going to give you a solution.
Okay, what about the rest of his video? What about the rest of what Zak had to say? What about the rest of his message? I'm sure he's not saying just wait for your dog to get into nonsense and then go redirect. That's a band-aid to a behavior, redirect, and get their attention. But the goal is to... I haven't watched this video, so I can't say what Zak would say. You know, maybe he did say this, maybe he didn't. I don't know, it doesn't matter. But what I would say is, you know, that you want... Your end goal is to prevent that from happening. And continue to prevent it. So I would continue to reward or continue to keep my dog's attention on me, or put a baby gate around the countertop. I would move the food dish away further back. I would keep the dog on a leash and tethered to me until enough time passes, over days or weeks or whatever it is, you know, over enough, you know, a period of time where I have reinforced enough that the dog is able to leave the counter alone or not jump up on the counter, where we will practice lessons where they are with me and I will walk by the counter when there's no food on there. I will walk by the counter with food on there. I will walk by with the dog on leash with me by the counter. I'll walk with them off leash. I'll let them go and figure it out. Let them, you know, toss a treat over here and they go over there and they can smell the food over here and I call them away, or I give them a chance to see if they're going to try to counter surf until I can proof that behavior. You know, my Shiba was never a counter surfer, so I never had to worry about that. He was also, you know, a pretty short guy. You know, he couldn't even reach the counter if he wanted to, but I worked with him on that. I worked with him to leave people food alone unless given to him in a certain area.
First, let's talk about a second layer to this problem
good job.
that definitely has dog trainers all over the world watching it and pulling their hair out. Zak's advice.
And you know what? There's nothing wrong with getting your fat butt up off the couch, okay? Body image, or health-wise, you know, or otherwise, you know, aside from that point, hello, I have body image disorder myself, so I'm talking about myself, but there's nothing wrong with getting yourself up off the couch. Stop being lazy. When you have a puppy or you have a dog that needs training, you are not entitled to be lazy. You're not entitled to your dog to be perfect. You need to get up and do the work it takes. If you don't, then you're going to have 10 times the work.
Teaching a dog to behave poorly is actively turning useful commands like your dog's recall into something your dog wants to ignore. This is what we refer to as poisoning our commands. Every time you
it's a cue, not a command,
away from something exciting using your recall, you're essentially saying, hey, stop having fun and do this instead. It's the equivalent.
Well, the dog wouldn't come if it weren't rewarding enough to come back to the human. That's how the whole recall works. With you, because you're a dummy and you don't know, you may be using that as a way because, that's what you do. You may think everybody does that, where you call your dog away. If you were to call your dog away from playing with the screen and not reward them, then they don't want to come to you. If you were to call them away from the screen and correct them, they would not want to come to you. They may come to you to avoid correction, or because they know they're going to get it, or they may come to you because you are more rewarding than the screen door. And then the whole cycle of keeping them away from the screen door, preventing them from practicing that behavior continues.
And
it's not rocket science.
While you're out with the lads, and yeah, she might have cooked you steak for tea, but if you're a few beers deep, eventually.
This has nothing to do with dog training. These comparisons are totally stupid. It's just absolute nonsense because it's a human concept versus a dog concept. That is just dogs are smart, but they don't have this concept like humans do.
Answering the phone.
That doesn't even work.
Having one more pint. So, what should you be doing instead? Well, you've got 3 solid options here, so take notes. Firstly, you can interrupt the behavior, but unfavorably. Yep, you heard me. If you're gonna
correct
stop
your dog
mid-mischief.
Oh, no. So one, he set his dog up for that, and then he has this tiny little sleep, and he pops slip lead, and he pops it on the dog. Loser. You don't know what you're doing.
You might need to add something unfavorable to your dog.
No, you don't. You don't need to do that, loser.
A little delay before redirecting them into something more productive. That way, they don't associate the bad behavior with the reinforcer.
So in order for them to get reinforced, though, they would have to be on the counter at that moment when you're rewarding them. Otherwise, then you would have to allow them to continue practicing that, and they get something that's stronger of a reinforcer by being on the counter than it is to avoid the counter. So, for instance, if they were up there and they get chicken, the chicken may be more reinforcing than your correction. So when you're not around, they're going to go and look for the counter chicken, the invisible chicken.
But 2, you could just manage the situation. If you're not up for the whole delayed gratification routine,
still a slip lead, lip lick, dog is nervous, whale eyes.
Management, you use a leash in the house.
Drags the dog. You don't need a tiny slip lead like this loser uses to keep your dog under management. Use a regular collar. I just did a video on collars I prefer, and I like at least a 1-inch minimum width on a dog. I would use a harness.
Or baby gates, or just keep certain things out of reach of temptation in the first place.
Agreed.
Or 3, you could change the behavior, but before it happens. Be proactive. Prevent the behavior before it starts.
So he doesn't even realize, okay, we got whale eyes. This dog is very nervous. They're submitting. They're going to the side. He doesn't realize he has this little rope, of his stupid ass choke chain, choke collar over this little dog's nose. Well, he's tying it up because his priority is, I'm going to tie this up. He doesn't realize the comfort of the dog. The dog is trying to appease him. He's bending over. He's making this dog more nervous. But he doesn't see any of that. He just sees what he wants. And this is what I see. When I'm working with an animal, I notice all of this. Because guess what? I work to benefit the animal. If you want to call me a tree hugger or force-free or purely positive, then fine. I don't expect, anything I do to be purely positive because that's not possible. I call myself force-free. And I don't want my dog, or any dog I work with, to look like this when I'm interacting with them.
And then redirect your dog's focus.
And then he just leaves it. Lip lick. He just approaches the dog and they give a lip lick.
Each of these methods involve using a house line, which
Dragging.
is perfect if you've got a puppy. And if you're not sure what a house line is, then no worries. Just click the link in the description for
a house line is just having a harness or a regular collar on your dog. I recommend harness, especially for a puppy, and having them drag a leash. That is all it is. And you can tether that leash to a heavy object or tie it around something or keep it tethered on you. You don't need to buy this guy's book or spend any more money. If you want to, go ahead, be my guest. I don't care, but you don't need to pay anybody to learn what a stinking house line is.
Free puppy guide that'll walk you through it. P.S. It'll work for adult dogs too that are getting themselves up to no.
Yeah, if you want to use a slip lead and you want to choke and correct your dog, then by all means go, don't do that. But thanks so much for watching. I do appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got something from it. Let me know what you think about it. Say how do you do to your little critters. Say how do you do for me. Give them some kind of love and they appreciate. Until next time, practice peace, patience, and positivity.